All right, fellas, 2001 Monolithic. Here with another amplifier. I want to go over this thing, talk about this company, which is Blade Technologies. They were amp company. They were a designer out of Canada, and they actually were. There was a company. The company that owned them, it was a sister company, was Indigo, and they manufactured these for Blade. Blades are, I don't know, pretty interesting, some of the stuff that I've found out about them. Here you'll see this amp's a fairly rare one. It's a 5-channel. It has a mono channel and then a 4-channel. So it's like the 54 is two channels, and then the one, it's like a single 100 watt at 4 ohm, 200 at 1 ohm mono, and then over here is this is one of the 2 channels, and this is one of the 2 channels. Now their big claim to fame, you'll see here, is this Bash MOSFET. What a Bash amp is, and it was designed by them. In fact, I believe Blade was the initial ones, and it kind of became a thing after they designed it. What Bash technology is like a Class D power supply, and then hooked to a Class AB output section. So the thinking was to get the fidelity of an AB with the efficiency of a Class D. Now this is all in like early 90s, like 93, 92 when they designed this stuff. So like way ahead of their times. But then Blade, being the sister company to Indigo, which manufactured all of these amps, they did a lot of home stuff. So they had they ended up using the Bash amps for their home powered subwoofers. So like Energy, Mirage, and Sound Dynamics were 3 of the brands that Indigo manufactured for, and they used this technology out of here, the Bash technology, which was designed by Blade for their amps. So that Bash technology is, it's pretty wild, something different. They probably had I know they did. They had a trademark on it. You can see it's real small here, but next to the Bash it says TM. I can pick that up. And then, like this is Series 2. The Series 1, it said Bash and then TM real big next to it. So, like, Blade owned the patent to that. And then, so I'm guessing, and they threw them in a bunch. Like, Indigo had the rights to use it, but I'm guessing maybe that's why other companies weren't in on using the Bash technology. There is a small short video on YouTube. I think it's a guy from PS Audio talking about Bash amplifiers. He doesn't think it's a real good design for like anything but subwoofers, just because he doesn't think the fidelity's there. I don't know. I haven't heard one of these, so I'll have to hook it up when I get a chance, and we'll see what it sounds like. But the 4 channels out of here, they're not even those. Those are what they call the two channel amps. What did they say they were? Optically switched Class A circuitry, whatever that is. And that would be like this one on the end. But you'll see it's like 3 separate amps in here. This has it was repaired by somebody, and they put these void stickers on there. But there's a split right here, and then here's the mono amp, and then here is the other 2-channel amp. They're all separate amplifiers, just in the same chassis. I'm sure it's not even the same board. These are incredibly difficult to take apart, but that's how all these Blade amps came. So they had SC 100, which was like just a little. These are pretty small amps for how many watts were in them. This one's fairly long. It's like 19 inches, but like I said, it's 3 different amps in one. But they were all the way down to let's see. You had a 5 1/3 inches. It was actually narrower than it is wide this way. But these amps are all 6.9 wide width, and then under 1.5 inches height. Oh, another thing cool about this amp is down the front of them right here, there's like a whole row of if I can show it. Yeah, there you can see them. LEDs, and this glows red. So it's pretty slick looking. And that's kind of why I bought this amp. I always wanted one that really, really nice looking. Oh, there's another video. Hi-Fi Vega does a dyno on one of these. He had a dual mono block version that he tests, and it did really well. It went over its ratings, and they should, because all Blade amps, all their numbers were done at 12 volt. So if you put anything over that, you should get more. Oh, another thing that makes them way ahead of their time. In 1993, or whenever these came out, it was either the Bash 2 or the 3, and I'm not sure which one. But it would have been like the SE200, the 4.2, the 6.3, the 8.4, the 10.5, or the 12.6, which was a 1200 watt amp. That thing's a beast. Super. That thing's 28 inches long. But it was just a bunch of... it was 6 monoblock amps all lined up, and that bridged that one. You couldn't you could bridge it. You could take it down to 2 ohms, but no matter where you were in the ohms, it gave you the same power. Just like, I mean, I think it was the Rips technology out of the first Slash series amps was the first time I had heard of that, and that was what, 99, 2000 when those came out. This was back 10 years before that. So just a really interesting company that was way ahead of their time. There's not a lot of information out on them because they were very expensive. I don't know how much this model was originally. I'm guessing somewhere in the $1,000 range. I know that the 12.6 was $1,900, and then I think like their cheapest amp would have been like $400, and that was for like a 50 by 2 or like 100 by 1. So they were very pricey amplifiers. And then there is you can find some marketing articles that they printed in a real early Car Audio magazine, and talking about their amps, and they had mentioned some of these stats didn't add up to me. So they said they're getting 5 watts per cubic inch, which is amazing at the time, which it is. There's a lot of power considering the footprint in these amps. They said that they have it because of the Bash technology. They had an efficiency advantage 5 times greater than conventional, which doesn't make any sense. So their example was a regular 200 watt amp would draw somewhere around 20 amps, and the Bash 200 watt amp draws 9 amps. Well, that's not 5 times greater. That's slightly better than twice as efficient. So even their own example kind of like proved them wrong. And then they said 250%, which is 2.5 times better, at a third of power draw of the amplifier. So I don't know. It's kind of goofy. Let's take more of a look at this side. I mean, they used at the time the Tiffany style RCAs. I mean, everything on this. These gain pots on these are kind of different. But each channel has its own gain. In the back of it, you can see is just a black panel. This one's a 20 amp fuse. The mono is a 30 amp, and then there's a 20 amp fuse down here because this is the same. But yeah, they have these like nice gain knobs on here, and then the Tiffany style, and then you can see there's for left and right, and then your ground, remote, and your positive. And then this one is your speaker plus positive, negative, your ground, remote, and your battery positive. And then this will be the same as down there, your left, right, ground, remote, positive. So, and then you can see there's this being the mono only has the one RCA. But yeah, I like the looks of them. I mean, this thing, it's not like super heavy. Not a lot of heatsink, but it makes sense because with the Class D power supply, you don't need to have, like they did back in these days, some crazy fins coming off to dissipate all that heat. I mean, get away with just a pretty solid. I mean, they're definitely solid feeling amps. The only problem is to take them apart, it's bizarre. So it's all one extruded piece of aluminum. You take these panels off, and then they kind of slide these amps in and down along here, and it's really bizarre how they're put in there. But yeah, the 6-channel would just be 6 of these bad boys, one right next to another. So it'd be all down the row, 6 of those. It's just really, really goofy. They, just a bunch of separate amps in one chassis. Trying to see what else. They called it monorail design so that each channel will do its full power regardless of what the one next to it's doing. But it's well, if they're all actually separate amps, well, of course it would. If you're supplying them with their own power, it'd just be like putting a bunch of amps next to each other. Of course, the 2 amps next to each other, one's not gonna start losing power because this one is. They mentioned that. Their marketing was like anybody else's back then, just trying to, make whatever they were doing look crazy and futuristic. The difference was some of the stuff that Blade was doing was crazy and futuristic. But I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing. I really don't need to start collecting more amps. So, but I do like having this one in my collection. But I don't know. We'll see. It's a gorgeous amplifier. It's not super mint, but it's pretty good shape. For an amp now, going on 30 years old. This one's it's a Survivor. Let's see, another amp that they had in a technology was the Grenade series. So and they were called that because they had what was called the Pin. And so there was what looked like the larger size jack for headphones. So what was that? Is it a 5mm? I don't know. But the bigger jack, it was one of those jammed in the side. And if you took it out, the amp would not power on unless that pin was put in there. And so they did that as an anti-theft device. The problem is, apparently when anybody pulled one of those amps out of a vehicle, they immediately took that pin and threw it in the garbage. Like you do. Like you do with the Molex plugs to a PPI amp. Immediately throw those in the trash whenever you uninstall that amp. Just certain things come up missing. So it turns out some people are thinking, oh, well, it's just a resistance. So you just got to find out what resistance it's looking for, and you should be able to make your own. It turns out you absolutely cannot do that. So, but anyway, if you can find them with the pin in it, those are great amps. They had a big old mesh, they had like a razor blade, or like a circular saw blade, and it had a copper mesh under it. They looked really sweet. And then this purple paint, or no, that was a pink on white, and it was splashed up and down the amp. And that also, the M series looked like that. They were they were about twice as tall as these SE series, and they had a strip of red LEDs going on the top, and they had just this hot pink kind of splashed along the top, and then it said Blade on one side. They were sharp looking amps. But yeah, those were this would have been what they considered their flagship series, the SE. But anyway, that's what I know about the Blade amps. And if anybody else knows more, definitely drop it down in the comments, because really interesting company. Sounds like they folded, Indigo just dropped them like a hot rock in the early 2000s, and that was it. They had amps and I think some crossover, some signal processing. But that was about all they made. So, anyway, well, thanks.